Ohio oil and hydraulic fracturing. Is there really a technological advancement here? Hydraulic fracturing, commonly known as fracking, has long been hailed as a revolutionary technology that has transformed the oil and gas industry. Proponents argue that fracking has unlocked vast reserves of hydrocarbons, leading to increased energy production and economic benefits. However, a closer examination reveals a surprising paradox. Despite the technological advancements over the past century, the amount of oil extracted through fracking remains remarkably similar to levels achieved over a century ago. The roots of hydraulic fracturing can be traced back to the 1860s, when Colonel Edward A. Roberts experimented with the process to stimulate oil production in Pennsylvania. The modern version of fracking, involving the injection of high-pressure fluids to fracture rock formations and release trapped hydrocarbons, gained prominence in the late 20th century. Since then, the technology has evolved with innovations in drilling techniques, materials, and hydraulic fluid compositions. While in recent years, 2010 to 2022, many residents of the Ohio Valley have been excited over the potential developments of the energy resources of the Marcellus Shale Formation, the economic opportunities have not been as transformative as hoped. From an economic standpoint, the high initial costs associated with fracking, including the need for specialized equipment and extensive infrastructure, might not always translate into substantial long-term gains. The rapid decline rates of fracked wells mean that continuous drilling is required to maintain production levels, resulting in a constant need for investment. While fracking has undoubtedly increased oil extraction in certain regions, it is noteworthy that the overall increase in production does not necessarily align with the significant technological advancements witnessed over the past century. Despite the deployment of advanced technologies like GPS mapping, horizontal drilling, and the refinement of fracking methods, the volume of oil produced through these techniques in Ohio is similar to the past. Oil production levels of the 1890s achieved 24 million barrels while using conventional methods a century ago. If you examine a graph of Ohio oil production, you will find a peak in oil production that occurred in 1895 at about 24 million barrels per year. Oil production did not reach this level again until 2015, hitting 27 million barrels per year. This oil production graph was not easy to obtain and required splicing data sets. Data points from 1895 to 1955 came from M.K. Hubbert's work on peak oil theory, published in his paper, Nuclear Energy and the Fossil Fuels. Data from 1981 to 2022 was collected on the U.S. Energy Information Administration's EIA website. Ohio oil production data from 1955 to 1980 could not be found and is estimated between 4 and 13 million barrels of oil per year. Upon viewing this graph, one might be surprised that in spite of all of the technological advances associated with hydraulic fracturing, that Ohio is only achieving the oil production levels seen in the 1890s. One might also wonder, why is there so much hype around fracking, and why does the U.S. Energy Information Administration keep some oil production data off the books prior to 1980? For decades, the EIA has been the go-to source for comprehensive energy data, meticulously cataloging information on oil production, consumption, and reserves. Yet, a peculiar void exists in the historical record, as oil production data seems to fade into obscurity before the dawn of the 1980s. Could it be a mere consequence of limited data availability or an intentional act of omission? Skeptics could argue that the EIA's selective disclosure conveniently conceals a darker, perhaps less flattering, chapter in the nation's energy drama. Certainly, sampling U.S. oil production data from 1980 onward paints a much rosier picture of U.S. economic growth. One could wonder if this selective sample window is chosen to make alternative energy investments, like fracking, seem more innovative than they really are. Could the EIA's selective disclosure be a calculated move to shield certain energy production data from scrutiny? Is the absence of data during the 1970s intentional to avoid public panics regarding energy scarcity? These are many questions worth exploring. Perhaps the geopolitical landscape of the mid-20th century was marked by tumultuous events that significantly influenced global oil dynamics, from the oil crises of the 1970s to the strategic chessboard of Cold War energy politics. Nevertheless, the data of the pre-1980 era holds a treasure trove of insights into the intricacies of U.S. energy policy and is difficult to collect. As the urgency for sustainable energy solutions intensifies globally, understanding the nuances of historical energy dynamics becomes imperative. The EIA, positioned as the custodian of information, invites us to unravel the mysteries within these historical data blackouts, pondering whether it conceals valuable lessons for our energy future. Simultaneously, the saga of hydraulic fracturing, touted as a catalyst for increased oil production, echoes a cautionary tale when the omitted historical oil production data is taken into account. Despite its undeniable impact, the sustainability question and marginal gains compared to conventional methods compel us to reassess fracking's revolutionary status. In this dual narrative, society stands at the crossroads, compelled to critically assess the true value and impact of technologies like fracking as we navigate the path toward a better future.